Going live now. We're live.
All right. Well, welcome, Mesa Public Schools community. Welcome to our Safe, Strong, Ready Facebook Live series. I am joined this afternoon by Melissa Valenzuela Settle and Krista Musey, because today our topic is Ask a Counselor. We know that during times, especially these times of COVID, where we are trying to live and learn through a global pandemic, that the social emotional well-being of our students and our staff are top of mind for us. And so we are going to be talking about the social emotional needs of our community, as well as the academic needs of our students. So I would like to introduce to you Melissa Valenzuela Settle. She can wave to us. She is our social emotional learning department specialist in the district. She has been with Mesa Public Schools for 28 years and has served in a variety of roles. And every role that she has served has been dedicated to supporting the learning needs as well as the emotional well-being of our staff and students. And I'm also joined by Krista Musey. Krista is currently a counselor at Dobson High School. This is her 12th year in Mesa Public Schools, where she has served as both an elementary and a high school counselor. So we have a wealth of experience today. These are also both parents that are, especially with Krista, who has 3 elementary children that are navigating the world of COVID in a learning environment. So she's got a lot of great advice to be able to share, not only as a counselor, but also as an educator and as a parent, and Melissa as well. So I want to thank you. Thank you to the community. Please add your questions into the Facebook Live. We will get to as many questions as we possibly can. We have dedicated about 30 minutes, so about 4:30, we will then be signing off and thanking you for your time with us. So I'm going to get us started. We know that the social emotional needs of our community has been very fragile and has been at the top of mind as we have been making decisions throughout this very unique and unusual school year. So we're going to get started real quickly. Let's think about elementary counselors. We had a question that came in preparation for this session today, which is, how often do elementary counselors meet with their students and in their classes? Can you share some information about what a family could expect?
Yeah, I would be happy to share with you, Dr. Forlise, what I did when I was in elementary school. In the elementary model, a lot of the times when we're working with students, it's a very proactive model, meaning that we are working with all students on a regular, consistent basis, teaching classroom lessons on social emotional learning standards to focus on supporting our students in developing academic, career, and social emotional skills, those mindsets and behaviors. When I was at the elementary level, I was in every classroom about every 2 weeks with a standardized lesson. And that was sort of our universal tier approach, our tier 1 approach, that all students received that. We also worked in small groups that would meet weekly with students who had some specific needs, and then also, of course, worked individually. And as a parent, you can always contact your school counselor, and they would be willing to work one-on-one with your student regarding any sort of social, emotional, academic need.
Thank you so much, Christopher, sharing that, because I think this is a great time to remind our community that on every one of our school websites and on our district website, we have a big red button that says help. So if you need help and you're not exactly sure how to reach out to a specific counselor, hit that help button, submit your needs, and that will come directly to the counselor. We will get that to them so that we can meet your needs as best that we possibly can. So you talked about working with students and in a classroom setting and a formalized lessons and then small groups. How else can a school counselor, whether that's elementary, junior high, or high school, how else can counselors work with families?
So we can work with families in a variety of resources. We can connect them to resources in the community. And so sometimes I might have a family reach out to me and say, I just don't know where else to call. We're being evicted. I don't know where to go. And those are situations where we can provide supports and resources in the community that families could work with. Sometimes I'll have families call like, my student's really sick and they're in the hospital and I'm not sure what to do or how to help them. And we can help facilitate an academic plan for the return and communicating with teachers. It can be something related to attendance. It can be something like, my students experiencing a lot of anxiety. It could be they're struggling in math. Really any sort of academic or career. At the high school level, we do a lot in terms of college and supports with the application and FAFSA and financial aid and scholarship process as well. So really, we're here as a liaison to the family to support them in the educational environment as well as the community.
Well, and
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. We also have departments within our district that specialize in certain things. So like what Mrs. Musi was saying is if a family finds themselves in a homeless situation, we have a department in our Mesa family that is called McKinney-Vento that does help families that are experiencing homelessness. And we help students at every level with homelessness. And we have resources on our website that are incredible. So our Mesa Public Schools website has tons of resources that you can go to, like you can go to your own school website and hit that help button. You can also go to the Mesa Public Schools website and hit that help button as well. And we can direct you in whatever manner you need. So not only do we deal with that, we have outside agencies that we're partners with. So many of our schools are partnered with mental health agencies that can also help your student on campus. So we've really been building resources and reaching out to the community as a whole to work with all of you just to help our families.
So could one of you share your screen so that those who are watching can see what that website looks like? Because, we're real good about putting our information out there, but sometimes it's hard for families to see what that looks like. So if we could share, I think that would be helpful. There we go. That's the Department of Opportunity and Achievement. And that is where our school counselors are coordinated through this particular department within our very large school district. So what would you like to point us to, Melissa?
Okay, sorry. I have to find that unmute button. So
that happens.
Yeah, here's this is the main page of our main page where you can ask for help. Where I was opportunity and achievement. So there's different departments. And I know sometimes that can be confusing, right? Opportunity achievement doesn't sound like counseling at all. But again, you can refer to the help button, or you can poke around on there because we've got lots of resources and great things for you. But here is, we're talking about social emotional learning. And I know that for some of you, you're confused. What does that mean? Well, here we have a website that will tell you exactly what that means, breaks it down for you, what it is, why, and how does it work. And we have resources as well on there. In Mesa, this is kind of our outline of what SEL is and what it looks like, and how we are integrating it into our system. So not only are we're integrating it for our staff so that it can be utilized with our students as well. And parents, there's always a piece of that you need to do at home as well. And so we have direct links to different resources as well, and just different little step-by-step things you can do at home to help your students. So, and if I know that this is a lot of information that we're throwing at you, just contact the counselors at your school. They have this information for you and they're happy to share it with you, just like what Mrs. Musi said. At the high school, we actually have social workers, yay, that can help you as well. So not only do you have a team of counselors at the high school, but you also have a social worker at the high school.
There's a question that just came in, Melissa, around talking about the role of the social worker. Can you talk a little bit about that? I understand that there's similarities and differences between a counselor and a social worker. So
absolutely. And they do a lot of the same things. Social workers they're connecting you with resources just like the counselors are. They're doing groups as well. In high school, the counselors sometimes don't have the opportunity to do groups as much with students because they are meeting with all of their students. They're meeting with all their freshmen. They're meeting with all their seniors. They're making sure that they have a plan for after high school. So a lot of the social workers, and here's the page on our Opportunity Achievement website. There is a social work page that kind of outlines for you what the model of a social worker is and what they do. And on your school website, if you're at a high school now, because we don't have social workers at junior high and elementary yet, but we will soon, I'm sure, you can go to their websites. You can also connect through all the social workers here as well. There's a direct link to them there. So this kind of explains what a social worker does. A lot like a counselor, they listen to a lot of social and emotional distress from students. They don't do a lot of academic planning. That's more what the counselors do. But they run groups and they connect you with outside agencies and also with that mental health piece of things.
Excellent. Thank you. And so now we can take the screen share off so we can see your faces as we have continue our conversation today. So we have a question that is coming in that says, with COVID cases rising, what will happen to sports and arts that are so important to social emotional learning? And so I'll take that first part and then we can kind of piggyback on this. So we know that COVID cases are rising across the nation. They're rising across the world. They're rising in Maricopa County. We are seeing that some of our zip codes that we have increased positive cases that are coming through. And so what we do know is that our schools are very safe places and that COVID is coming from the outside into our schools. And anytime that we do see positive cases, there's typically a connection to some sort of a large school gathering or large group gathering, we've seen some challenges in our athletic programs. So it is very, very, very important that in order to keep our programs alive and in person and our learning in person, that we must adhere to those mitigation strategies of socially distancing, not sending kids to school when they are sick, and most importantly, wearing a mask, not just at school, but all times. And so we know that we have had we study every case. We study all of the data by school every single week, every day. And we have had to close down some of our athletic teams, volleyball teams, a POM team. And we've had to close down a choir. And so with that, we know that is a social emotional connection for children. And so when we close that down, we know that that's a very big risk to their connectivity. So can you talk about when that happens, what are some of the coping strategies? What are the skills that our students can lean on to get them through a quarantine or closing down a program for 14 days or even longer?
Well, Dr. Furlise, one thing I practice not only as an educator, but as a parent myself is really focusing on ways to develop resiliency in my own children and in my students. And, resiliency is the ability to bounce back from life's disappointments and hardships. And so what are some of the proven evidence-based practices that support developing resiliency in kids and in adults as well? And so thinking about things like developing mindfulness and being able to be present in the moment and focusing on areas that you can control. And, we can focus on our own response to things. Focusing on, there's essentially 5 pillars of resiliency, which is self-awareness, mindfulness, self-care, which includes health factors. So being able to help stick to a routine and focus on adequate sleep and adequate nutrition and those kinds of self-care strategies. Continuing to develop positive relationships. So even if perhaps those relationships with those friends on the sports team or the music program aren't currently in person, how can we develop those relationships outside of those in-person interactions? And also a big part of resiliency is purpose. And so what are ways that we can continue to support our students and ourselves in developing and feeling like there is a purpose? And how do we give back to the community in ways that are safe, in ways that are protected, but also in ways that support students in feeling like they have that purpose?
And I think that oftentimes our kids, they see a genuine purpose of school is to participate in athletics and the arts and so on. So there's also a purpose to following mitigation strategies. And there is a purpose behind that. And it is so critically important that to keep our programs open and our schools open, to in-person learning and in-person experiences, that we have to slow the spread of COVID. And that's not what we are seeing across the world and in our own community. So we can use all the help that we possibly can with our community to share that same message. So another question had come in earlier is, my child is doing remote learning and I'm really worried that he or she might be struggling emotionally. What should I be looking for? What are some of the signs a parent is looking for to see that there's big struggle in a child's life? Who wants to take that one? Melissa?
Do you want me to take that one?
Go, Melissa.
Sure.
Then you chime in, Krista.
Well, I think that it's hard, right? Because this is a new time, and so we don't know how our students are going to react or what they're going to do. But here's my thought for you parents, and I know that you're just looking for the right answers. You're looking for, how do I help my student? Well, first, help you. So you have to be okay. You have to do those things, just like what Mrs. Mesa talked about, taking care of yourself, making sure you get proper food, that you get proper sleep, that you are in a great mindset, because remember that you're the model, right? That students are going to model what they see. And I know you've all experienced this, right? We've said a bad word, and then all of a sudden we hear our kids say that, and we're like, where did they get that? We modeled that for them, right? So we have power. We can model for them resiliency. We can model for them, you know what? We're going to stay connected. I stay connected. I don't get to actually go to my friend's house anymore, but I can call my friend. I can text my friend. I can FaceTime my friend. I can talk to them in different ways. I stay connected. And so you want to stay connected with your child. And sometimes they need some alone time, and don't take that personal, or don't take that as, oh, they're withdrawing. Give them a little bit of time and then help them to communicate with you. And what I mean by that is, sometimes they don't communicate with words, they communicate in different ways. So be looking for different signs, maybe that they want to be alone, or maybe they want to talk, but they need you to initiate. So stay connected with your children, but take care of yourself so that you can take care of them. And modeling is super important. So modeling that resiliency, you know what? Yeah, it's different, isn't it, to be on the computer? But I think you got it. I mean, I think you really know what you're doing. And let's look at your grades. Oh my gosh, you're doing really well in this class. Or let's connect with your teacher. Let's find out. Maybe there's something else we can be doing. So keeping that connection with your student and just monitoring them and seeing what their needs are and letting them communicate with you that.
And I would just chime in on top of all of those great suggestions with keeping an open line of communication with your child. And that's going to look different at different age levels. Elementary age students learn primarily through play, and they process through play as well. So being able to make sure that there's opportunities for unstructured play to help them work through some of those things. That's a very natural process in that age group. But with older students, sometimes it's hard to have those conversations about how they're doing. And often, it helps. Sometimes they're a little bit more open if you're doing an activity together and it's not like sitting face to face, making eye contact with each other. But if you're simultaneously working on some sort of cleaning in the same room, and they don't have to look directly at you, sometimes they'll be more open and willing to share. I would also encourage you to watch for drastic changes in behavior. So watching, are they always a straight A student and now they're getting all Fs? That's definitely cause for concern. concern, and I would encourage you to reach out to your school's counselor and your teachers of your child. Watch for those changes, and also, have hard conversations. Be willing to ask and say, how are you doing? Are you feeling anxious about school? And open up those lines of communication.
I think that our community, our world is seeing COVID fatigue. And we've said this multiple times, is that while we are seeing fatigue living in this world of COVID, COVID certainly has not become fatigued. It's here, and we are going to have to learn to live with it and around it and through it. And so those strategies around how do we connect, how do we listen differently, I know that in the professional world that, in fact, just a couple of minutes before this, we started Facebook Live, I had to make a phone call to one of our directors and, was going through all the information that I had to share. Okay, I want to update you on this, and this. And then tomorrow we need to do this, and this. And at the end, he said, before you go, I have a question for you. And I said, okay. And I got my pen and pencil ready. And he says, how are you? I said, oh, wow, thank you. I think I'm going to be all right. And I think sometimes it's slowing down and just asking that very simple question, how are you? No, how are you? How are you doing in getting through this? And sometimes those the very simple question takes us a long way to better understand. So both of you are in and out. I mean, I know, Krista, you're working at Dobson High School, and Melissa, you're in and out supporting many, 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 many families and students throughout the district. As you think as we come to a close, our questions are kind of slim today, so I don't want to keep us going unless we need to. But as you think about some advice to families, is there some advice that you would like to share that you haven't been able to talk about yet this afternoon? What do you wish that families would ask a counselor, right? Here's our big topic, ask a counselor. What questions do you wish that you could help families and students with?
What I think is really helpful is to really focus on having a plan. When things are a little bit more predictable, students and frankly adults thrive. And in uncertain times like right now, when things are a little bit outside of our control and unpredictable in terms of COVID-19, being able to create as much predictability in your life as possible and having that plan is going to support everybody all around. And so although it might take a little time the evening before to review what the plan for the next day is, or what the plan, spending time in the morning, outlining what the day is going to look like for everyone in the family, that predictability really supports our students in continuing to do well and thrive in their development. Sticking to a routine, adequate sleep is an issue that we often see, especially at the high school level. Students are waking up in the night and staying up late, and they're checking their phones, so being able to plan around those things that we know are causing and contributing to perhaps students struggling a little bit more will really pay off. Those proactive approaches do help. And I know that I personally experienced this with my own children. When I woke up and had 10 minutes in the morning to myself, and I made a plan, and I knew exactly how I was going to arrange each student on each device and when our live meetings were and when my live meetings were, that our day went so much smoother and that our family was happier and more successful than the days when I didn't start the morning with that plan.
So planning in the midst of chaos is comforting. Yes. And the things that we just can't control. And any other advice?
Well, I think for me, my advice would just be keep that line of communication open and make sure, parents, that you're taking care of yourselves. I know as a parent, it's tough. As an educator, it's tough. We say we're going to do self-care, but we end up, we're the mom, we're the aunt, we're the grandma, we're the whoever, that important role. And we feel like we'll always have to be there for someone else. Take care of yourselves. Get connected with somebody who you can communicate with, who you can bounce ideas off with, and then stay connected to your kids, because they do need you. They may not act like it. And if they're high school, they might not act like it as much, but they do need you, and they need that communication. So stay connected, stay communicating, and we're here for you, whatever you need.
Well, I appreciate both of you. You are a wealth of knowledge. You are an incredibly talented team. And I know that you do great work for Mesa Public Schools. So I want to say thank you to both of you. Thank you to our audience for joining us this afternoon to talk about Ask a Counselor. Enjoy your afternoons. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.